In this video, I'm going to introduce you to the order of operations. So here we've got an example. We want to compute 6 minus 2 times 3. And at first glance, it looks like there are two ways to approach this computation. One way is to do 6 minus 2 first, and then multiply by 3. If we do that, we get 6 minus 2 is 4, and then times 3, well, that just makes 12. Or we could do 2 times 3 first, and then subtract the result from 6. Let's try that. 6 minus 2 times 3. Well, 2 times 3 is 6, and if we do 6 minus 6, then we get 0. So which is it, 12 or 0? When we don't have a strict procedure for the order in which we perform operations, we can get conflicting results. To remedy this problem, there is a convention for a strict order of operations in math, and it's called PEMDAS. That's just an acronym, and it stands for P first, parentheses, and then E for exponents, then MD for multiplication and division, and that just goes left to right in the order that they appear, and then AS for addition and subtraction. And again, that goes left to right in the order that they appear. You can remember this acronym PEMDAS by the following mnemonic. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Alright, so applying this order of operations, starting with parentheses and then going down to addition and subtraction, let's see what the correct answer is. We don't have any parentheses or exponents in this problem, so we can start with multiplication and division. And that should come before addition and subtraction. So the bottom line is that we should be doing this multiplication 2 times 3 before we do this subtraction, 6 minus the result of that multiplication. So this is really the correct result here. We do 2 times 3 first, get 6, and then do the subtraction 6 minus 6 to get 0. So our final answer is 0. Alright, so now that we've seen what the order of operations is and how we should use it, let's go ahead and apply it to solve these two examples. For the first example, we want to compute what is 2 times the quantity 4 minus 1 minus 5. And to do this, we'll use the order of operations. So let's write that down. Please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. So please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Parentheses, exponents, multiplication and division, addition and subtraction. Alright, so let's get on with it. Starting with P parentheses, that means we have to evaluate what's inside of the parentheses first. So the first thing that we have to evaluate in this expression is this 4 minus 1 inside the parentheses. That evaluates to 3. 4 minus 1 is 3. So we have 2 times 3 minus 5. Alright, next up, exponents. Are there any exponents to do? Well, no, we don't have any exponents, so we can skip onward to multiplication and division. Multiplication and division, here's a 2 times 3, that's multiplication, so we should do that before subtraction. So let's do that 2 times 3 here, 2 times 3, that just makes 6. And then 6 minus 5 is what we're left off with. Now we just go ahead and do our addition subtraction. We just got a 6 minus 5, just do that subtraction. 6 minus 5, that makes 1. So there we go, 1 is our final answer. Alright, next example. Compute 1 plus the quantity 4 times 3 minus 4 times 2 squared divided by 2. Again, we're going to use PEMDAS. So let's write it down. P-E-M-D-A-S. And starting with parentheses. So the first thing we have to do in this expression is compute what's inside the parentheses. So we want to figure out what is this inside the parentheses. What does that simplify to? Now this example is a little bit trickier because inside the parentheses we have a bit of a complicated expression. We actually have two multiplications any subtraction. So we have to make a decision. What do we do first? Multiplication or subtraction? And the way we make that decision is we apply PEMDAS within the parentheses as well. So within the parentheses, what comes first in PEMDAS, the multiplication or the subtraction? Well, MDAS, multiplication, comes before subtraction. So we should do the multiplications first. So let's go ahead and do these multiplications. 4 times 3 goes to 12, and then we have a minus, and then 4 times 2 goes to 8. And that's all in the parentheses, so let's write that down and the rest of our expression as well. So 1 plus the quantity 12 minus 8 squared divided by 2. Now we can go ahead and finish off computing the parentheses. This 12 minus 8, that just goes to 4. And so we've got 1 plus 4 squared and divided by 2. Okay, so next up, we've finished with the parentheses. Now we go on to exponents. Let's go ahead and compute that 4 squared. That's the only exponent here. 4 squared is just 16. Okay, so we get 1 plus 16 divided by 2. All right, now we're done with exponents. Let's go on to multiplication and division. There's no multiplication, but there's division here, so we should do that next. The 16 divided by 2. What does that come out to? Well, 16 divided by 2 is just 8. So we have 1 plus 8, and we just have a single addition we're left off with, and we'll go ahead and compute that. That comes out to 9. So there we go. That's the result of this expression. All right, here's a final round of problems. So before we dive into these problems, let's just take a look, see if anything pops out as potentially confusing. One thing to notice in both of these problems, there is a root. There's a square root of 1 plus 3 here, and a cube root of 4 squared divided by 2 in this other problem. And how do we fit roots into our order of operations framework? We have parentheses and exponents, multiplication, division, addition, subtraction, but where do roots fit into all of that? Well, the way roots fit in is that roots are treated the same way as parentheses. So roots along with parentheses come first in the order of operations. You just do them from left to right, whichever appears first. So that's the big thing to remember here. Now that we know that, let's go ahead and tackle one of these computations. So let's write down the order of operations, parentheses, and we'll put and roots here, parentheses and roots, then exponents, and then multiplication and division, and then addition and subtraction. All right, so in 3 times the square root of 1 plus 3 minus 4, we do first parentheses and roots from left to right. There's no parentheses, but here's a root here, so we need to compute that root first. So let's just evaluate what the inside of the root is first. So that becomes 3 times the root of 1 plus 3. 1 plus 3 is just 4. And then that minus 4. Let's go ahead and compute that root then. The root of 4 is just 2, so we just have 3 times 2 minus 4. Okay, great. So we're done with computing the root, and now we don't have any parentheses or roots left, so now let's move on. There aren't any exponents here, but there is multiplication. 3 times 2 is a multiplication, so let's go ahead and compute that next. 3 times 2 is just 6, and then 6 minus 4 is what we want to compute. And so now we're down to just a single subtraction. 6 minus 4 is 2. There we go. So that is the result to our computation. All right, now let's tackle the next one. Compute 1 plus the cube root of 4 squared divided by 2 divided by the quantity 5 minus 3. All right, so for this one, we're going to refer to the order of operations again, first starting with parentheses and roots. So let's go ahead and evaluate parentheses and roots going from left to right. So let's write this down again. This is 1 plus the cube root of, well, we should evaluate what is inside of this root. And to evaluate the inside of the root here, 4 squared divided by 2, we have to decide, are we going to do the 4 squared first or the divided by 2 first? Well, look to our order of operations. Exponents comes before division, so we should do the exponents first. We should do 4 squared first and then divided by 2. So 4 squared is just 16, and then we have that divided by 2. We'll finish this computation on the next line, but let's keep on going on evaluating parentheses and roots. So we have a division here, and then a parentheses here. So we should compute what's inside of the parentheses as well. Inside the parentheses is 5 minus 3, so compute that. 5 minus 3 is 2. And now we'll go ahead and keep on simplifying because we still need to compute this root here, cube root of 16 divided by 2. So let's write that out. 1 plus the cube root, well, 16 divided by 2 is just 8. So cube root of 8 then divided by 2, and the cube root of 8 is just 2, because 2 cubed is 8. So this becomes 1 plus 2 divided by 2. Now it's time for another decision. Are we going to do 1 plus 2 first, or are we going to do 2 divided by 2 first? Well, refer back to our order of operations. Division comes before addition, so we should do division first. We should do this 2 divided by 2 first. That's just 1, so we have 1 plus 1, and 1 plus 1 is just 2. So again, this problem as well comes out to a result of 2. Great, so now we know how to use the order of operations to evaluate lengthy expressions consisting of multiple operations. In the future, we'll continue to learn about more operations on numbers, such as absolute value.